Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is I'm watching Shining Vale, Season 1, Episode 4.
So much blood. Apt.
Uh-huh. I weirdly really like this show.
Yeah.
It's still very strange.
I still feel the way you said last week, where it's like, by the time I'm like fully immersed in the world, it's over. And I wish I could have binged this.
Mm-hmm. I've been asking for more humor. We're not getting that. If anything, it's getting scarier.
Yeah.
This episode was actually kind of scary.
Kind of scary.
So, this is neither here nor there. I just have to complain. I hate every single time she takes the pill because she does.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. That's not how to take a pill. That restricts your throat. I watch people do it all the time. My friend Vanessa used to do it. And I was like, if you actually want to swallow a pill, you put it in your mouth, take the water and look down. It opens your throat and the water flushes it back. It drives me nuts every single time. I've been trying to let it go, but we see her do it.
It's so many. And plus then she takes one that's dusty.
You were like, that pill's gone.
Disgusting.
And she didn't even give it like a...
No.
Like,
she just was like, ugh. And then she was like, ugh.
I mean, character informing.
Sure, of course.
But no, I'm actually surprised at how invested I am. It's a very strange family unit.
Yeah.
I feel like Terry is really the only likable one. I mean, they're all likable, but...
Sort of, except for he's also... I don't think he likes her.
I think he does. I think he's trying to.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just... especially like at the beginning when he just kept interrupting her and she was like, get the fuck out of my office, essentially.
Well, but she's being possessed.
Of course, she absolutely. But the fact that he doesn't notice too.
Because it's silly woman. It's her drugs and her bad habits and bad decision making. And because there's a tag before the show that it like deals with mental illness. And I mean, metaphorically.
Yeah.
Because I forget, does she, I mean, I know she's taken
she has family history of mental problems, but nothing has manifested in her yet.
So their doctor, their therapist or whatever, has her convinced that she's created Rosemary and Rosemary is a muse for her.
Yeah. And
she's still trying to write erotica with Rosemary, and Rosemary is not letting it happen.
She literally just keeps killing herself in the bathtub.
Yeah, it was really funny and scary. I said this the first episode, and I agree that I think that the show and the screen does sort of ignite a little bit when Mira Sorvino is... Which
begs the question why we're not doing more with her.
Well, I think this was the most we've...
Yeah, I still wish it was more.
You know, I think we'll get there. Because I'm also curious I'm curious if this is her past. That, like, if she's having Pat write her story, like her past down.
Yeah,
like
it
the
seems
going
like
to the grocery store and the her husband not letting her buy the alcohol.
Yeah.
That is what it seems like. But so that was sort of Pat's story. This episode, she is drinking again. We found out that she never had she never went to AA. She never went to rehab.
She just quit drinking.
She was like, I drank too much and it was bad for me at that time. So she has started drinking again. And, you know, I mean, I'm on his side that you should really run that by him.
Your spouse. But also, she's making less destructive decisions while she's drinking than he is.
Sure. But and I guess this is where the metaphor for the mental illness is coming in, because it's like, is the ghost real? You know, because they talked about how she's doing the pages. Everybody at the office, because she had a meeting with Cam, everybody at the office loves it. They want to give her a bigger advance. But now Cam's afraid that she's going to pull a Pat, which is self-sabotage, which
that feels on brand.
Kind of doing that.
Yeah.
And so I'm sort of like, so is Rosemary just extended metaphor for that? Or is it also something that is it the dramatization of the like self-sabotage or the mental illness or whatever? We do get a point in the actual poltergeist column is the town seems to be very aware
of the house.
Yeah.
Because Gaynor and Ryan, she is gunning for that kid's dick. Gunning for it.
Really funny. I was having a hard time putting a finger on Gaynor, and I do really like the open hostility that her and Pat have towards each other.
Well, it seems like mutually beneficial to them. Like they're both having a good time with it. But my favorite part was when she Ryan is like, "Oh, I heard my mom drove you home last week," and she goes, "Yeah, I'm wearing the medallion she gave me." Tits out. And he just is like, ugh.
He pretty much did. He pretty much shielded his eyes. And then he hard tells her no. He was like, we can be friends only. I'm not interested in
whatever this is.
Yeah. And he walks away and she's like, ugh.
It's so hot.
She's like, that's so hot. And so I'm having a hard time figuring out how deep this well goes.
Yeah. Because then she does end up going to the old folks home with him to visit and volunteer.
She's just this weird is there such a thing as a mild chaos entity?
Sure.
Because that's the vibe that she gives, and it's very strange. It's very interesting. It's not like Trial and Error.
No. But she does keep trying to be like, are we going to go to the meth van or whatever?
At the old folks home with him, Ryan introduced her to
Birdie,
a woman who went crazy when Birdie found out where Gaynor lived, and
wouldn't let go of her hand. Her hand was cold as ice. Also, apparently, Birdie and Daisy both hung out in the house.
So, is what I was going to say is we forgot to mention there was a tree house last week.
Yeah,
that Jake found porn in it and brought it to school. What? Okay. You were
that's not the part I'm mad about. The part I'm so done with parents ruining their children's sexuality at the first indication of anything. I'm fucking furious.
You watched Turning Red.
I watched Turning Red and I can't get over that part of it. Greg Kinnear, Terry is just looking at opens the
at
centerfold
80s porn
and is holding it essentially out the window at Jake's school in front of boys he knows that are clearly bullying him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just and trying to make it into a lesson about how that's not what the female form looks like. And I'm like, agreed, it's not. But there's a time and a place, and it's not in the car after you picked him up from getting suspended from school. Ugh.
Well, so but that's where I'm sort of what are the rules of this reality? Because if this is a weird sort of Looney Tunes-esque reality, then because they're all four members of the family are half a bubble off.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? They're all a little bit
Yeah.
It's not like any of the members of Modern Family were behaving any of.
But Phil would do that.
I guess. So he's hanging out in this treehouse, and that's the thing is Birdie was specifying it was the treehouse.
Yeah.
It was the house in the trees that was evil. And so when he was hanging out there with another porn magazine, we could see it was Daisy plus Birdie. So I don't know if that was meant to be
Well, it was Daisy and Birdie were here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was I couldn't tell if it was meant to be romantic or platonic.
I don't think so, because Daisy is really young.
She's a girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is interesting. I'm sure it will come up again. I'm curious what would happen if Pat just let Rosemary take over.
Yeah.
Would it free either of them from this, or would it drive Pat and thus the family all the way? So I suppose that's what the show's about. But
and also now all of their hopes are hanging on Pat, even though they shouldn't be, because Terry quit his job.
Yeah, you're right. It's very weird. This is a very odd, very weird show, but I genuinely get kind of excited isn't the word, but I'm like, ooh, I'm actually looking forward to the episodes when we sit down to watch them. And it's going in a general sense, it's following a pretty typical poltergeist trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So in a
trajectory.
So what did I say?
Trajectory. I mean, I feel like it means roughly the same thing. I'm not sure it's an actual word.
So in a general sense, it's going where I think it would. but all of the individual elements are not going the way I thought they would.
And that's why I really wish we could binge it, because it's every time I'm like I said at the beginning, it's like every time I find myself fully immersed again, it goes to credits. And I'm like, I just want to live in it a little bit. Like, I just want to be able to like bask in this. And it's not letting me do it.
Because I kept laughing this episode. So in that regard, I guess maybe it is giving me... So I guess I wanted it to give me more jokes, and it's not, but I'm acclimating to the style of humor, because I'm still finding the title cards very funny.
It's definitely still funny. It's just not jokes.
So he did quit his job, and he's right. And that guy, Tom, Thom, seemed terrible.
Well, he just is like, he basically says, I thought you didn't drink. And Terry is like, oh, that's over. Or like, I thought you didn't drink because of your wife. And he says, well, that's over. And he goes, good. She was a nutcase. Like, out the gate, you're not even 100% sure what he's talking about at that point. And you're just like, good, your wife's crazy. Way to get out of that.
You throw a couple lines out, like wait for him to be like, yeah, I finally figured out she's crazy, and then add your 2 cents.
Sure. And it's sort of like, it's so, I don't know. It's just a whole thing. They get drunk together, and he just basically is like, I've got to go home, because Pat calls him and is like having a problem.
Well, she punched the computer.
Well, because Rosemary punched the mirror, or hit the mirror. So and then Tom is like, oh, your crazy wife calls and you just have to leave. And he's like, literally, fuck you.
I feel like I'm liking it more than you are. I feel like you're getting frustrated.
I am frustrated. I do like it, but I am frustrated. I think I maybe don't like that it's half an hour.
It's more serious than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very strange.
I also have like no concept of what we're working towards as like an end goal. Well,
like I said, from the Poltergeist perspective, I have a sense of what we're doing, but like, what does that mean for this family? Like,
and it goes back to what you said, where it's like, how metaphorical are we supposed to be treating this? Is this real, or is this all mostly imagined? Or like, Pat realizes at the end, she starts playing video on the...
Well, that's what I started to say was that Terry found a like old-timey projector, and it started up on its own. And so Pat realizes by the end that Rosemary is real and presumably lived in this house, because it was like birthday footage.
Yeah, she just keeps basically saying she's my muse. Like, she just thinks she's this thing that has happened because of the clorazepam. We could not remember the name of the drugs last week. But she was a real woman. So now I think she maybe...
Because basically, if she just needs her story told, it's like Pat could tell her story and set her free. And so it's like, like I said, I'm actually enjoying it. I'm just finding it very odd. Yeah. Which isn't always a bad thing.
And I feel like it's oddly paced, too. There's some pacing issues, which again goes back to the I wish I could binge it aspect.
It's one of those bold where, like I said, it's like nobody's particularly... Like, we don't have a hard and fast good guy or like moral compass. Yeah. And so I appreciate that it's different. And I think it's only like 8 episodes, isn't it?
Yep. There's 4 more.
We'll see what this does, what this looks like, and if there is a life to be had beyond this. Yep. Who knows? I want to talk about a metaphor.
Yeah.
So that was episode 4 of Shining Vale.